Okay, this is a Class A vehicle inspection for the Modernized skills testing. For the Modernized skills test, you can use the checklist. So I'm going to go through the checklist as I'm doing the inspection to show you how it's done. So we're going to start with the in-vehicle engine start. So I'm going to start the engine and build up the air pressure, and while I'm doing that, I will check some of the items on this list. So for a safe start, I want to have my foot covering the brake, make sure the vehicle is in neutral, and that my parking brake is. Turn the key to the on position and check my ABS warning light, make sure that it comes on and goes off. So that is working properly. I'm going to check around and make sure that nobody is leaning up or underneath my vehicle, and then I will start the vehicle. I want to check my oil pressure to make sure that it's rising. All right, that's rising normally, so that is good. If it's not, then I would want to shut the engine off. So I want to double check my parking brake is set, double check neutral, and then I can take my foot away from the brake. So the first part here, I have pressure, so I'm going to check my parking brake and my trailer brake. So I'm going to release my trailer, make sure my parking brake is set, release my trailer, put it in drive, and then tug against it. So just tug a little, not a whole lot. So that's kept the vehicle from moving, so the parking brake is operating correctly. Next, I'm going to check my trailer brake. So I'm going to set my trailer brake and release my parking brake. Do the same thing, put it in drive, tug against that, and that is holding the vehicle, so that is operating correctly. So both my brakes are operating correctly. Next, I'm going to test the service brake. For the service brake, I need to pull ahead 5 miles per hour and apply the service brake, which is the foot pedal, and then check and see if it brings the vehicle to a stop smoothly, or if it's pulling to the right or the left, make sure that it's operating correctly. So I put the vehicle in drive, I've got my brakes released, I'm going to pull forward about 5 miles an hour. I'm going 5 miles an hour and applying the brakes. Okay, so the vehicle came to the stop and it didn't pull to the right or the left, so that's operating correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and back up and find a spot where I'm not rolling. And then I'm going to do the air brake test. So I've let off the brake, I'm in neutral, my brakes are released, and the vehicle is not rolling off. If it was rolling, or there's an incline, I would use wheel chocks to keep the vehicle from moving. So now I'm going to build up the air until the governor cuts out and do the air brake test. So for the air brake check, the very first thing we do is the governor cutout test. So the governor should cut out between 120 and 140 psi. So the governor just cut out, and it looks like we're at about 130 psi, so that is operating correctly. Next, I'm going to turn the engine off and the key to the on position, and the warning lights will come on, let the needle cycle, and then make sure my brakes are released, or my parking brakes are released. I'm going to fully apply the service brake, and then once the needles have settled, I want to check this for 1 minute, and I can lose no more than 4 psi in 1 minute. So the air pressure now is down to 110 at the beginning of the minute. Again, you want to fully apply the service brake, and the brakes have to be released, the engine off, and the key in the on position. So again, watching that, making sure I lose no more than 4 psi in 1 minute. Okay, almost done. And you do have to hold that for 1 full minute. All right, so it's been a minute. I've lost about 2 psi, so the pressure's around 103. Started out at 105, and that's operating correctly. So the next test is the low air warning light and buzzer. That needs to come on above 55 psi. So I'm going to fan the brakes down until the warning light and buzzer comes on, and then I will let you know what the pressure is that it comes on, but it needs to come on above 55 psi. Okay, so it came on right at 60 psi. That's above 55 psi, so that's operating correctly. All right, the next part of that is the pop-out test. So I want to check and make sure both of these valves pop out, and they need to pop out between 20 and 45 psi. So I'm going to watch the valves and then pump the brakes down, evacuating the air, and watch that until both valves pop out. So they both popped out, so I stopped pumping, and it looks like we're right about 22 psi. So that is between 20 and 40 psi, and that's operating correctly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a safe start again. Check neutral, parking brakes are set, nobody's around, the key's already on the on position, so I'll start the truck. Oil pressure rises, so that's good. Alright, next I'm going to check my lighting indicators. So I'm going to check my left turn indicator, make sure that it comes on and goes off when I turn the switches on and off. My right turn indicator, my four-way flashers, so they're coming on and then go off, and then my high beam indicator comes on and goes off when I cycle the light. Next in the list is the emergency equipment. So I want to check my fire extinguisher. It's down beside me. It's securely mounted to the vehicle. It's not cracked or damaged, and it is fully charged and in usable condition, and it's properly rated, not missing any safety items on it. I want to check that I have spare fuses for my vehicle for the size and type that I need, and that they are in usable condition. I also want to check my 3 reflective triangles. I need to have at least 3. They need to be clean and free of defects and in usable condition. Okay, next I'm going to check my windshield and traffic monitoring devices. For the windshield, I'm checking to make sure there are no cracks, there are no rock chips, there's no illegally placed stickers, and it has a good seal, so it's not leaking. And then my traffic monitoring devices, I'm checking my mirrors, making sure that they're not cracked or damaged. They're clean and free of stickers and obstructions. Okay, next on the list is wipers and washers. So I'm going to check my windshield wipers, make sure that they're not cracked or damaged. They have good contact with the window. They clean the window and not just smear. And I'm also going to check the washer to make sure that it sprays and everything together is working properly. So the water's spraying fine, the wipers are working, they're cleaning the window and not leaving big streaks. So the wipers and washers are in good operating condition. Next, I'm going to check the heater and defroster. So I'm going to put this to defrost and then over to heat and turn the fan on so I can hear and feel the fan on defrost. And then I'm going to put that to the other panel and check the heater. So the heater is working, I can feel that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So the switches and the heater and defroster are working fine. Next, I'm going to check the horns. So my city horn is working, my air horn is working, and so the horns are in good shape. Okay, so that's everything on the list for the in-cab. So I can go ahead and turn the engine off now. I'll turn the key to the on position. I want to do the external light operations check. So I'm going to ask the examiner here to help me out. So would you please go to the front of the vehicle on the passenger side? We're going to check the front of the vehicle and the passenger side of the truck and trailer. And then I will turn on the lights if you'll let me know if they're working. And then when we're done with the front, I will ask you to go to the back on the driver's side and you can inspect the driver's side of the truck and trailer and the rear of the vehicle?
Yep.
All right, so can you please go to the front? Okay, so right turn, left turn, four-way flashers, high beam. So there's the low beam and then high beam. Okay, we have clearance lights and marker lights. Okay, can you go to the back? So this time we're checking the rear and the driver's side.
Got it.
Okay, so marker and clearance lights. All right, so left, right, four-way flashers, and brake lights. All right, thank you. So that's everything on the end cab. Next, I will move to the front of the vehicle. So for the front of the vehicle engine area, I'm going to start with checking the lenses on the vehicle. So lift my lights on, I'm going to check those out. Okay, front of the vehicle, first item is lenses. So I'm going to check all the lenses that I can see on the front here and inspect that they're not cracked or damaged, they're securely mounted, and that they're all the proper color. Next, I'm going to check fluid levels. So I will open the hood, make sure that that's unlatched. Open the hood. Okay, I'm going to check over here first and see what fluids I have over here. Here I have my coolant reservoir, so I'm going to use the minimum and max lines, and I can see the fluid through the side glass here, or the side of the container. I want to check to make sure that that's at the proper level between the add and the max lines. Okay. On this side, I have my oil dipstick. I would check the engine oil level here with the engine off. I would remove the dipstick, clean it off, fully reinsert it, pull it back out, and check that the fluid level is above the add line and at or below the max line or the full line. Here I have my power steering fluid. I would check the power steering fluid using the dipstick here. I would check to make sure that it is at the proper level. Okay, so next we have fluid and air leaks. So for fluid leaks, I'm going to check the entire engine compartment area, the radiator, the engine, the transmission, every part that I can see, looking for leaks as well as seepage. And we should have no dripping leaks of any engine fluids. And then if there is seepage, I would inform the mechanic and get that fixed. Next, we're checking for air leaks. So we're checking all the hoses and everything that you can see in here. For leaks, again, that's not only air but the fluids for the hoses that have liquids in them. So we're checking all of those, making sure that there are no audible leaks. Next is the steering system. So the steering system includes the column, the steering box, and the steering linkage, so the pitman arm, drag link, upper and lower control arms, and the tie rod. I'm checking all of these to make sure that there are no missing or loose nuts or bolts, no cracks or damages, everything's securely fastened and mounted as it should be. Any joints, pins, cotter keys, nuts are securely fastened, not damaged or missing, and the joints are properly lubricated, and everything appears to be working properly and connected properly. Okay, next we have the steering axle. The first item on the list is tires. So here's the tires. We're going to check the condition of the tires, so the sidewalls and the top, checking to make sure that there's no cuts or bulges or abrasions. We're looking for even tread wear. There's no, again, cracks or damages, no nails or screws or anything that could cause any kind of leaks. We're also checking to make sure there's no chunks of tread coming out of the tops and the sides that are showing plies inside the tires. Next, we're going to check the minimum tread depth. So the minimum tread depth on all the major tread grooves here is 4/32 of an inch on the steer tires and 2/32 of an inch on everything else. We would check that using a tire tread depth gauge. Okay, next we will check the inflation. So the valve stem is down here. It's not cracked or damaged or bent. There is a cap in place and on there securely. We would check the inflation of the tire using a tire gauge, and the inflation should be around 100 to 105 psi for these tires. Okay, next are the rims. We're checking the rims, making sure we have a good bead that's not dented, there's no cracks or damages, there's no illegal repair welds, and the bolt holes where the studs go through are not distorted or elongated. Next are lug nuts. We're checking all the lug nuts to make sure they're all present and they're all tight. The nuts themselves are not cracked or damaged or loose or missing. We're also checking for signs of looseness, which is shiny threads here on the studs or rust trails leading from the lug nuts out. We're also checking to make sure that the studs are not damaged in any way. Next is springs and mounts, airbags and shocks. So this is not equipped with an airbag, so we don't need to worry about that. Our spring mounts are here and on the back. We're checking to make sure that they are securely mounted. They're not cracked or damaged. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts. They're not illegally repair welded. And then we are going to check the springs. So we got the leaf springs going across here. We're checking to make sure that they are not cracked or damaged. They're not shifted or scissoring and are securely mounted to the axle. We're also checking to make sure that they are connected properly to the spring mounts and that the shackles and bushings are all in place, no loose or missing nuts or bolts. Next, shock absorber. So here's our shock absorber. We want to check and make sure it's securely mounted at the frame and the axle. No cracks or damages, no loose or missing nuts or bolts. Bushings are all in good condition. This is not dented or cracked or bent, and it is not leaking. Next, we have our brake hoses and leaks. So this is our brake hose here. We're going to check and make sure that it's connected properly on both ends. It's not leaking anywhere through here. It's not cracked or damaged. It's not bulging, and it can supply air to the braking system. Next is brake contaminants. So we are going to look inside and check the brake drum in that area and make sure that there are no contaminants such as oil or grease or debris, anything in there that could cause the brakes to not work properly. Okay, next on the list here is side of vehicle. So we're going to kind of step back. We're going to check all the lenses on the side of the vehicle and reflectors. If there are any, make sure that they are securely fastened, not cracked or damaged. They're the proper color and clean and operating correctly. Next is traffic monitoring devices. So that's our mirror here. We want to check the mounting of the mirror, make sure it's securely fastened to the vehicle, the door. No loose or missing nuts or bolts. And then I would check the mirrors, make sure that they're not shaky. They are clean, free of stickers, and adjusted properly to the driver. Let me see. Next is the battery. So this is the battery box. This is not easily accessible, so I'm not going to open or take the lid off, but it should have a proper cover. The batteries themselves inside should be securely mounted to the vehicle. And then I would inspect all the wiring and connections, make sure that they are secure and they're free of corrosion. And the wires going off in the different areas of the engine, I'm checking those to make sure that they are not chafing or have any exposed wires inside there, so the insulation isn't cracked or damaged. Okay, next is the fuel tank. So that's on the other side of the vehicle. I'm coming this way. I'm going to close the hood. All right, so we have the fuel tank here. I'm checking the entire fuel tank to make sure that it is securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, and that it's not leaking anything. Checking the fuel cap to make sure that the cap is there in place and it has a good rubber seal on the inside and it's not leaking. Also checking the fuel lines coming to and from the engine or the fuel tank to make sure that they are not leaking or damaged. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the other side. Next on the list is frames. So I'm going to inspect the frame of the truck and the trailer. So those frames, we're checking to make sure that they are not cracked or damaged. They're securely mounted, or well, everything is securely mounted to them. They are not bent. The cross members are in good condition. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and no illegal repair welds or holes drilled in them. Same thing on the trailer frame, but we're also checking the cross members of the trailer on the underside, making sure that they're in place, no bad or missing rivets, and the holes, making sure there are no holes going up into the floor on the underside of the trailer. Okay, next is for combination vehicles only. So I'm going to check my air and electric lines and connectors. So in here I've got my electrical cable here. I have my service air line and my emergency air line. I'm going to check these, make sure that they are not cracked or damaged. They are securely fastened on both ends. They're being held up so they're not dragging against the any of the other parts here in between the truck and the trailer. We're checking to make sure that there are no illegal repairs. These aren't pinched or damaged. No cuts in the outer insulation, and no bare wires. I want to check the part here where it plugs into the trailer, make sure that it's securely connected. The cap is in place and we'll hold that in securely. Also want to check over here on the truck side, make sure that it is securely connected. Next, we're going to check our air lines, the connections here on the truck side and on the trailer side. They are not leaking, cracked or damaged. They're not kinked, not showing any signs of cracking. We're also checking the glad hands to make sure that these are in good condition and that the rubber seals in between here are not leaking and in proper condition. Okay. Next is fifth wheel skid plate. So underneath here, I'm going to grab my pointer stick for this. This is the fifth wheel skid plate. I want to check the fifth wheel skid plate to make sure that it is not cracked or damaged, it is not bent, and it is securely fastened to the frame with the platform. Also want to check to make sure that it is properly lubricated. Okay, next we have kingpin, apron, and gap. So I'll start with the apron. So the visible part of the apron here that I can see, it's this part of the trailer. It is connected properly to the trailer. There's no holes or damage. There's no excessive wear, and it is properly lubricated as well. And there is no daylight gap between the fifth wheel skid plate and the apron. Okay, so kingpin. The kingpin is located inside the opening here, the fifth wheel skid plate. It's securely fastened to the apron. It is not bent, cracked, or damaged. It is not worn too thin, and it is not chipped. Next, we have the locking jaw. The locking jaw is securely fastened around the kingpin. It is not cracked or broken. It's properly lubricated. And then I would also want to check to make sure there's no excessive play in the locking jaw where the kingpin, so it can't move back and forth too much. All right. Next we have our release arm. The release arm is here. Want to check and make sure that it is not bent or damaged. and that it is all the way in the locked position, which is all the way in. And if there were a safety latch, I would inspect that to make sure that that were in operating condition and in place. Okay. Next, trailer only, we have landing gear and clearance. So while I'm here, I'm going to check the clearance between the landing gear leg and the mud flap and the frame of the tractor, making sure that there's enough clearance so that when you turn the vehicle, it does not hit the supports here or the landing leg of the landing gear. So my hand crank is on the other side, so I'm going to go over there. So for landing gear, I want to check the landing legs are straight up and down. They're not bent, cracked, or damaged. I want to check the supports and the cross members, or cross supports, making sure that they are all in place, securely fastened to the landing gear and the frame of the trailer. Everything appears to be working correctly and connected properly, not bent, cracked, or damaged. The handle here is in the stowed position when not being used to raise or lower the landing legs. The landing pad is flat. It's there, it's not missing, cracked, or damaged, and then the landing gear or the landing is fully retracted when it's being driven. So next is reflective tape. So I'm going to check the reflective tape on the side of the trailer and make sure that it is properly affixed, it's clean and reflective. And if there were any other reflectors, I would check those as well. Next is the rear of the trailer. So at the rear of the trailer, I want to check all the lenses that are on the rear of the trailer, making sure that they're all securely fastened, they're not loose, cracked, or damaged, and they are all the proper color. Next, I want to check reflectors on the rear of the trailer as well. So I only have reflective tape. I don't have any other reflectors on the back. Well, I do have the corner reflectors up there, reflector tape as well. I want to make sure that those are in place, reflective, they're clean, and covering 100% of the rear of the trailer. And that is everything that is on the list. And again, you only need to check the items that are on the list. So that completes my test.